In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are.
Welcome to Be the Wellness Podcast, where we help you master your body, mind, and the experience of life through insightful conversation, interviews with experts and thought leaders, all with a side of marital banter and some good old-fashioned humor.
Yes, we are your hosts, Adam and Vanessa Lambert, and we're committed to helping you live life fully expressed physically, mentally, and experientially. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Be the Wellness Podcast. We are super stoked to be back at you this week with an incredible guest and a bunch of good news.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, Adam's looking at me like, we have good news.
What is this news? I wasn't briefed.
You're pregnant.
I've always wanted a girl.
Oh, so anyhow, we are really excited about our guest today, Dr. Erin, who is the co-founder of and TV host of Good Morning LaLa Land, which is a TV show that they do here live every morning in LA that we had an opportunity to go on about a year ago or so.
Something like
Probably
that.
a little more than that. And just love the vibes of Dr. Erin and the whole cast there. We've had Rob Mack before on the podcast as well, who's another one of the hosts. And it was just time to get Dr. Erin on.
Yeah, for sure. And she is a wealth of knowledge in this. I don't even know what you call it. It's like, I mean, I guess it's technically self-help, genre, like at the really high level, but she has a really interesting way of talking about our behavior and how we relate to ourselves and the world around us and like the choices that we make about that. Right. So you can choose to look at how you fit in this world, like one of three ways. And she'll talk about that quite a bit in the podcast. And I think that it's cool. Like it's a really refreshing and to me new take on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I follow her on Instagram and I just love, she does these sort of little shout outs while she's driving and they always really resonate with me. And there's just a lot of, just a lot of truth in there, a lot of grounded truth for me when I listen to it and a lot of wisdom. And that's what I feel like we really get into today. And we go into some spaces that are some of my favorite spaces to explore. So I was happy to have a guest on the podcast that was willing to go all the way to the weird with me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But it's not that weird.
No, it's not that weird. No,
yeah.
No.
So, I mean, keep listening.
Don't worry. Don't be afraid. So Dr. Erin is a doctor of divinity, the founder and TV host of Good Morning LaLa Land, like I mentioned, and SOULCIÉTÉ. She is a new thought minister, best-selling author, international speaker, self-made millionaire, Global Peace Leader Award 2016, mother and lover of life. Forbes featured her as the 11 most inspirational, as one of the 11 most, I don't think all 11,
She's
but
all 11 of the most inspirational something.
As one of the 11 most inspirational female entrepreneurs to follow on Instagram. Like I said, she does these shout outs on Instagram that are very heartfelt and very enlightening. So we agree. We hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Before we get to it, just a reminder that we have our amazing, awesome 21-day meditation challenge on grounding and healing taking place right now. You can check out the show notes for a link directly to that, where you'll get a daily meditation delivered directly to your phone every day with some journal prompts. Those of you out there who have taken our meditation challenge before, you're sort of familiar. It's not just about the meditations. It's about the community and kind of the thought and some of the, energy and emotions that those meditations sort of provoke and pull out. And we give you a place to talk about that if you feel so inclined.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And now it's delivered directly to your messenger. So it's super easy.
Yes.
All you got to do, sign up. It starts rolling in.
Yep.
Meditate. Talk about it.
We're trying to use all the tech, all the easy tech for you guys to make it super easy and simple and, like a no-brainer.
Like a no-brainer. So yeah, scroll on down, check that stuff out. And without further ado, here's Dr. Erin. And we're live. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Erin.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be with the wellness.
Ching, ching, yeah. Well, we were so honored to make an appearance on your show, Good Morning LaLa Land. Gosh, it's probably been almost a year ago now, and just had such a wonderful experience of your energy, and just thought it's long overdue to have you come into the Be the Wellness world, into the hive, so to speak.
I love that. And you guys are just this bundle of energy and love and vibrancy. So I could use a little bit of your juju is pretty good these days.
Well, right back at you. I was watching one of your talks. You do these live talks on Instagram where you're driving, and they're very off the cuff and very organic and always chock full of such beautiful information and insight. And I was watching the other day and I was like, all right, it's time. We've got to get this energy in here in the Be the Wellness podcast. And so I can't wait to share all the juicy energy that you have going on. But first, I want to kind of give folks an opportunity to get to know you and to just kind of walk it back, because something that occurred to me when I was listening to you talk was I had this question of, were you always this way? And if not, what happened in your life that created the catalyst for you to become this person that you are, this spiritually embodied, just really source energy, beautiful light energy that is really speaking such an impactful way. And I had this moment of wondering, what is that backstory that created who you are in this moment? So maybe you can start there.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I was definitely not who I am today. I was a hot mess. I was a disaster. I would point the finger at life, at whatever relationship I was in. I grew up in a broken family in the hills of Santa Barbara in somewhat of a hippie commune. I had no rules, no regulation, no principles that I was raised with, which was, I had loving parents. They just didn't know any better. They're just kind of trying to find themselves. And, to be really frank with you, I tried drugs and alcohol. I tried acid in 7th grade in high school. I'm sorry, 7th grade in junior high.
We would have been friends
in high school. I had bulimia from the time I was 17 to 20. I got married. I had a stillborn at 22. And that is when I decided no more. And I began the spiritual track. And so, who you're seeing today is not even remotely who I was before, but it wasn't like I always had this real pure heart. I always wanted, good things. I never did. And luckily I never liked drugs. Luckily I never liked to sleep around. Luckily I never liked any of those things. So it sounds worse than it was. But what happened was, and I remember the transition that happened when I did begin to do my spiritual work, and when I did begin to awaken, and when I did begin to do my deep, deep emotional trauma work and began to wake up to the truth of who I am, I went into what we all in the transformational world kind of call the cocoon. And I remember almost like dying and being reborn into someone who had a lot of wisdom and a lot of grace. And of course, getting developed through actual study as well. But who I am today it's not even remotely. I mean, the core of my essence is the same, but who I am and my ability to, have wisdom and my ability to speak and my ability to do all these things is just straight up not even remotely the same human being.
You mentioned this being in the cocoon, and I think just that topic is so relevant right now. It feels like, in this coronavirus era, we are all in the cocoon. I'm just curious about your thoughts about that in general, not just being in the cocoon, but what you think this coronavirus is all about for us on a spiritual level.
Oh, I love the topic. We've been talking about it every single morning at 9 a.m., going live. And of course, it's the top topic. So I'm so clear what's going on. First of all, the universe is a cause and effect universe. It's all created from consciousness, and we get to create in harmony, or we get to create in discord. We get to create heaven or hell. And the coronavirus is an outpicturing of what we have, created as a cause and effect of not being in alignment with the animals, with the sentient beings, with Mother Earth, with the political system, with everything. And so we are all 100% responsible. And it is fascinating to think that the corona is the crown And so how do it is our greatest teacher right now. It is what is having to rise in the king and queen as we are. And what does that mean? That means that the only way we're going to survive as a species is to collaborate, is to understand we're a global community, a global family, that there is nothing dividing, that we are one with Mother Earth as Earth Day, as all of it, as the sentient beings, all of that. I recognize that this is the biggest blessing that we have on the planet right now.
I got chills. I love it. Yeah, the word collaboration really stuck out to me. And, it's funny, I'm sure as coaches and as folks in this wellness community, we're seeing all different kinds of reactions and noticing, because obviously we're trying to help people and, create opportunity and help people, see this as an awakening and an opportunity, not as a punishment, so to speak, although maybe there's a little bit of that there. But what I found really interesting is that every person it's like the volume is getting turned up on whatever is important for you to really come into at this point. And so for some people, the volume is just getting really turned up on what is out of harmony and just, dis-ease, so to speak. But I have other folks who, they're just like in the best state they've ever been in.
Just thriving. Yeah.
Well, as you guys know, look, the reality is when you've had your spiritual awakening, and that means that your values have shifted back to the core values of what really matters to you through your oneness, through understanding what really you're here to do on this planet. When something like this happens, it just is a confirmation. And so it makes you more confident in your conviction of what you're up to. And if you haven't had a spiritual awakening, if you have your values are kind of, not quite in alignment with what really matters to you, then it's going to be very discomforting because it's going to shift everything that you've been valuing in your entire matrix of what you're, putting the perspective of what matters and your identity and your everything. So of course it's going to be really hard for some people and very easy and actually the opposite for other people.
That's really interesting. And I think you're 100% right. It's just and so I keep going back to like this thought process of like, okay, well, what other experiences have we had, over the course of my life that are similar to this, And so, there was Iran-Contra and there was 9/11 and there was the, housing market crash in 2008. And there's been these kind of like things that seemed significant. But in each of those, you could always like point out a small subset of people that were really being affected and everybody else was just kind of aware of it. And this is the first time that it's like everyone, it kind of doesn't matter. Even if you're, I don't know, the top of the heap, 1% Uber billionaire because of, whatever business, that business is being affected and it's affecting everything downstream, and ultimately affecting you. And it's just really hard not to look at it like this global wake up, this thing of like, look, guess what? We're turning the fire up. And exactly like you said, if you don't have the right shoes, it's going to get really hot, But
isn't that cool? Like it reminds me of watching some of the great movies where there's the warriors that have to come together and they're fighting against, another enemy. And it's the first time that you've thought about it that we can't, there is the enemy, if you will, would be the coronavirus, but it's really not the enemy. But we have to come together together as one tribe around the world. And it won't work unless we do that. Right. And so that's why it really is the crown jewel of what's going to help us come to our oneness. So what a blessing and a weird, it's a kind of a hard thing. Just like when I had a stillborn son, it's not easy to wake up, but that becomes the greatest blessing of your life because it's what's given me my entire, purpose and calling and given me a life beyond my wildest dreams. Well, this is the coronavirus. It's not easy to have people die because if it's not easy to have the economical, terrible things going on, but it is what we need to have a life beyond what we've been living.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, the reality is that almost everything else we've had, there's been some sort of opposition that you could point to. It was terrorists. It creates this us and themness.
Yeah, totally.
And it's really hard to us and them a virus. You know what I mean? You're like, it's not even alive. Like, how do we do this?
I still want to put that.
Yeah, for sure.
What's I find it so interesting though, and I was writing about this other day that, how many times has, there been a virus, or how many times has, in Wuhan, for instance, these animals have been kept like this for years and ages. And like, what was the catalyst right now in this moment that brought it to this head that was like, okay, this is going to be the outcome. And I just think about how intelligent nature is, and I just think it has such a wisdom that is beyond our comprehension, because it's just so much older than us, right? Its wisdom is, it goes all the way back. And I'm curious about your thoughts about just the intelligence of nature and the role it has to play in this.
I think it's such an interesting conversation. And if you take a look at the Mayan calendar, or quite frankly, even the Bible, what was hidden messages in there, is that it's all a measurement of consciousness. So we know there's no time or space in the consciousness realm and spiritual realm, but there is cause and effect. And there are quantum leaps in our ability to create. If you take a look at life as if it's a classroom for development of consciousness, that's all it is. And so if you take a look at why now are we going to this next quantum leap of wherever this is taking us? And we've gone through, as they say, different eras of consciousness. And I truly believe that the intelligence that's actually happening is the intelligence of where we went, say, from like a single cell organism to actually collaborating into organs, and then being able to go into, this thing called a human being. Well, the same thing's happening. We're going away from traditional type of families, and we're going into what's like-minded community and global community, and also getting back into love and connection with a smaller tribe immediately. So I truly believe that actually what's happening is we are going to that global community with like-minded, and that's what this coronavirus is going to demand. The scientists across the globe have to collaborate. The communities around, different things like philosophical communities will be coming together to come in agreement around things. The housing, the international travel communities will have to come together. It's demanding us to find our global community. And so that's really the quantum leap, and why the coronavirus is because we are actually a global community, and what we do affects the other world, because we're circulating physically and mentally around the world through technology and through airplanes, if you will. So it is important that and that's of course why, because there's a glitch in the system. We're not in alignment. So this is the outpicturing of that.
One of the things I've really been thinking about is when I'm having a bit of a struggle, or I'm in a little bit of a sticky emotional space, we all have our tools that we go to kind of help us get through that space. But something that has really been present for me at this particular time is moving into my heart chakra and really, really focusing on the energy of love and expansion of the actual energy of love. And I'm curious for you, because we're kind of philosophizing and, getting esoteric about this whole thing. But what are you telling folks, like boots on the ground, what to do in the moment that you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling that stress? Like, what can someone do in this moment?
Sure. So there's a metaphysical formula, to get back to the ethereal, that is totally applicable. So overwhelm comes, it's like imagining that you're in a tornado and you get lifted up like Dorothy or something like that. And you're going around in circles, and there's all these flying particles going everywhere. And that's pretty much what people are experiencing right now, because they've got, social media, the news, their bills are stacking up. How do I do this? It's the unknown. It's all these overwhelmed things, because when you have the same things going on all the time, your brain doesn't have to think about so many particles going everywhere. So what happens when you're in a tornado or you're doing whatever is, it's like, I don't know if you guys ever, did dancing at all, or if you would twirl around, but as a child, when you go to dance class, you do what's called spotting. And when you're twirling around, you pick one item to focus on. And when you twirl around again, you find that one item again, and it helps stabilize that feeling of feeling like you're dizzy. So overwhelm, the formula is the exact same thing. So what you want to do is you want to simplify. So that means turn off the social media if you need to, or turn off the bad news. You may have one person or one source that you go to in case there's something that you need to know. But you need to get back to the basics, saying no to everything that you don't need to do, and getting back to things like sleeping, eating, exercising, and making sure that you're not, taking in more negativity than you need to. Getting back to the basics and then doing a gradient again where you bring in what you want to go from there. So the formula for anyone that's overwhelmed out there and you're listening, the biggest thing is to simplify, simplify, breathe, sleep, eat good food, get some exercise, and take one moment at a time.
That's good stuff. And it's like, ultimately, like, that's what we end up doing with a lot of folks, like our coaching clients, right? Is because, even obviously what's going on in the world has created kind of a focal point for craziness, right? But I think a lot of people's day-to-day lives are generally pretty crazy. Like there's so much stuff that gets allowed in and so much just kind of, negativity actually to a large degree, and maybe even like on one end of the spectrum, super negativity, on the other end of the spectrum, just kind of like noise. There's just the ambient buzz of busy modern life. And so it's that idea of taking a step back and, exactly like you say, simplifying as much as possible, just to those things that are like, these things make me feel good. I feel good when I eat well. I feel good when I move well. I feel good when I breathe. Obviously, besides just the normal breathing, but like,
I feel like alive and
stuff.
Yeah,
I think that there's something that we need to know, because it's like some people are like, yeah, well, that's good, but I still have anxiety when I'm just sitting there, right? So we have to understand that, look, the coronavirus and everything going on, whether you're listening to this downline, it doesn't matter if this is evergreen content, meaning that this is applicable no matter what's going on, because everyone gets overwhelmed, and it's relative, whether you're dealing with a pandemic or whether you're dealing with, just life. Life is overwhelming. Yes, you can simplify. That's the first step. But the second step really is doing your inner trauma work, because what happens is you get triggered. And even like the coronavirus is actually pulling up times in our past lives. It's in our epigenetics. There's memory that lives in our DNA. And why are we so afraid right now? It's because we've gone through famines. We've gone through times where we didn't have money. We've gone through all that. And there's memory that lives in us. And so the second step is to do your subconscious emotional trauma work, so that you can get freed up from all those triggers that happen, that anxiety. You don't know where that anxiety is coming through. Why do I feel so anxious? I breathe, I turn off the bad news, and I still feel anxious. Where is that coming from? And it's because you're connected with the collective consciousness, and you've got to go in and do your work and be able to complete and become stepping into the power that you are, releasing everything that is energetic ties to things that no longer serve. So going into the emotional trauma work is imperative, doing all your trauma of this lifetime and the trauma that lives in your DNA as well.
I couldn't agree more. It's been one of the most profound things for me in the last decade, is realizing just first of all, the distinction that this stuff is living in our DNA, and that even though you might not have conscious memory of it, it's living there. And it's like this idea of going back and almost scrubbing the DNA for this information and being able to cleanse it out is so important. And I've had amazing experiences. We've talked about it on the podcast a bunch through plant medicine. And so I'm curious, what are the modalities that you like to use to do this trauma work?
Yeah, I think that trauma work in the future, it'll be like, well, I went to the dentist this year, I go get my car tuned up and I go get my trauma work done. It should be that normal. It used to be we're like, oh my gosh, do you have a therapist? You know what I mean? Like,
what's wrong with you?
Like, you don't have a therapist. What's wrong with you? Right. So I have developed what's called the E4 trauma method. And it is a culmination of a lot of processes I went through, which are Greek oracle processes and Socrates method, and taking different energetic, because obviously I'm a doctor of divinity teaching metaphysics and universal law. So it's a 4-step process. It's called the E4 trauma method. And what it is the 4 E's stand for experiencing, evaluation, emotions, and enlightenment. And what does that mean? That means first is we re-experience. There's no time or space. So if there's an emotional incident that happened, you go back into that as if it's happening right now. So usually the client will close their eyes and they take me there. Okay, I walked in the room. He said this. I said this. You say it as if it's happening now, not like, I remember back when, and it was this day that, no, like, take me there. Let's go there. The second is evaluation, which means actually the opposite. No evaluation, because emotions only stay on our track if we recreate them. They're actually being recreated through the limited story and by the meaning that you're putting around what happened or did not happen. Okay. So we want no backstory, no evaluation. So instead of saying, I went in, he said this, I was upset because the day before he had said whatever. No, just state the facts and experience it. Okay. The third step is emotions. And the thing is, we want to fully feel the emotions. We know in physics that what we resist persists. So emotions, we want to fully feel the emotions, expel the emotions, but remember to not put meaning around the emotions. And then we basically get to the step 4, which is enlightenment, which means, what did you decide? What limited beliefs did you decide about yourself, about others, about life in that moment? And so what happens is we go through these 4 steps kind of over and over again until the emotions around the mental picture are neutralized and until you're able to see what was said internally during that, because the subconscious mind is programmed by vibration. And the subconscious mind, how do we create vibration? It's by the emotions. And how do we create emotions? It's by the meaning, the positive or negative meaning that we put in place upon what did or did not occur. And so what happens is in a traumatic emotional state, we have so much emotion, we have adrenaline pumping or whatever that is, and we state something internally that is a lie. It is a lie that divides. I'm never going to love again. Everybody leaves. I'm not enough. I hate living. I don't want to live. It's a command, and it impinges on the subconscious mind, and it plays out like puppet strings over and over again. So when somebody is upset in the current moment, whether it be a pandemic starting, a crisis, you get into a relationship and they say something that triggers you, it is this thing that comes up and you don't know, well, why do I feel so emotional right now? Why do I feel so freaked out right now? Because it's pulling up something from the subconscious that whatever, it only knows what happened. So we want to neutralize those emotions, release those commands, and begin to restore what is simply freedom of choice. You should be able to be in the pandemic right now. You should be able to be in any financial crisis. You should be able to be in any argument and be able to say, what do I choose right now? What is the best choice for me to stay safe? And what do I want to choose that will innovate and create through this, instead of being like, oh my God, I can't do this, right? So that is the E4 trauma method.
I love that. It's beautiful. So I'm curious about making this distinction of obviously pulling out memories that they have, but what about these subconscious memories or these memories that live in our DNA? Do you use their real life circumstances almost as reference points to move through that energy?
Yeah. So what we do is, it's kind of like, there's a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, which is a very
I love it.
And it was a psychiatrist, and he ended up working. He had this one client that was, she had all kinds of phobias and anxieties and all kinds of crazy things. And what happens is he began to hypnotize her, and she began to pull up these memories, right? So what happens is, in the E4 trauma method, is we go into the traumas of this lifetime and we do what's like an earlier similar. What's the earliest time you ever felt that way? And you try and go in. And then what happens is, if you go early enough in this lifetime, and it still clearly came in this lifetime, you recognize it's something in a past life. So what we do to go to past life regression, of taking E4 method and going into the past life regression, is we go into fantasy. And Einstein said fantasy is our greatest not modality. What's the word I'm looking for? Faculty, in that it's actually it's like a wormhole that goes into past life. Okay. So when we're going to past life, it doesn't matter if it's actually your past life. The truth is that it really matters what emotion is around that fantasy, right? So oftentimes, if I'm working with clients, they'll go to a past life and they're like, I don't know if this really happened or not, but let's just play with it. And you go and you begin to, and this mental picture will pull up, almost like if they're, creating a movie, and it flashes back to a past life. And they begin to go into this incident, and all of a sudden they have all these emotions, and they end up doing E4 trauma method, and they release it, and they go, oh my gosh, that traumatic incident felt more real than any traumatic incident that happened in this lifetime. It's so common. And the reason why is because we are living as, we're archetypes, and we have all this stuff that on our track, and it's the emotions attached to it. We're just looking to neutralize the emotions. When we're really awake, we should be able to look at anything on this planet, anything that's going on, and we should be able to just look at it and then take action.
Love it.
That's super interesting. I think, the fantasy piece of it, I think is fascinating. And it's something that maybe we don't talk about enough, or at least like, I don't know, like nobody that I know talks about it that much, but I think it's incredibly important. And I think like my take is that might be like that mechanism that you're describing might be what actually is going on when you're releasing traumas with the psychedelics and with the plant medicine, because it's also metaphorical. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, and then I was in this cave and I was talking to this goblin and he said, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, but you feel the emotion of whatever it is,
Because it's the meaning that you're putting around whatever that fantasy is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to consider the collective consciousness in this manner too, because like you said, you might be picturing something and maybe it's not even yours, like, right. But you're just tapped into it and it's affecting you. Like it's living in you because it's somewhere in the ether and you're tapped into it, And I'm curious, like if, or how you think about that, if it's really just about the person's trauma and their own DNA, or if it's sort of just this open funnel of like, we're just experiencing.
It is an open funnel. And it just depends. Like I spoke about this morning about the difference between death, transitioning, and eternal life. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's one and the same. It's really how you identify. Do you identify with the body, or do you identify as a soul, or do you identify as the I am? And it's the same thing when we're doing consciousness and when we're doing, it's like, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And the reality is that
all the way.
Right. Some people go, they just want to deal with, I just want to make more money, or I just want to get the better relationship, or I just want to deal with this like upset I'm having with whomever. And, that's fine. We can put a little Band-Aid on your life, but how far do you really want to go? And the reality is that when you get into trauma or you get into any of this stuff, it goes as far down as you want to go. And that's why I stopped working one-on-one. I used to work with celebrities and CEOs, and that's fine. I love that. But that's why I love to develop spiritual leaders, because these people are like, I want to go all the way. And I only want to work with people that want to go all the way, because why would you not want to go all the way? Right? So yes,
if you're going somewhere.
When you're dealing with trauma, you can't do all your trauma without doing the trauma of the culture. It's impossible.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I've experienced that, and, not to keep referencing the plant medicine, but it's just been such a powerful modality for us. And I've felt that before, where I'm like, okay, I'm good on my own work. Now give me the collective. Let me start processing for others, because we do have to, there's a backlog if you don't know of trauma. So I kind of want to switch gears here a little bit, because I don't often have guests on that I think I can ask this question, and I'm so excited to hear your answer. But what do you think the meaning of life is?
I love that. And I don't know why people don't ask that question more. Like, why do you care about whatever, right?
Right? Like, what? I'm always like, okay, yeah, but what's the point? Like, what's the point of it?
How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go with this?
All the way.
Yeah. My truth is that we're already God, we're already pure consciousness, and that we're here to experience more of ourselves, right? So how do you experience more of yourself if you're already all of it? The only real way to experience more of it is to play a game and to basically have a relative experience of feeling like you have limitations and boundaries. And so we're really here to just experience this thing called consciousness in the 3D realm of just more and more of ourselves. So really the meaning is to get developed and experience our consciousness and form in this cause and effect universe of being able to create in harmony or discord and experience the cause and effect of that and really create. We're just here to create. We're to create and play and whatever it is and pretend like we're the effect of something. How can you be the effect of something when you created all of it?
Yes, this is actually exactly where I landed with this on my own, is that we are creators, right? Like in the end, that is what we are. We are made in the eye of the creator, in the image of the creator. And that is truly what we are, right? and just whatever you want that to mean is your possibility.
Yeah, and I honor each and everyone's truth, and whether they believe there is a different creator or Jesus, or it doesn't matter to me. What matters is whatever everyone gets to have their own truth. That's the relative truth of it. For me, I am the I am. I am that factor, the spirit, the oneness that has created the entire universe. What has created the entire universe is what my true self is. And so, I just honor everyone's truth, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And at the same time, I've come out of the closet in my spirituality, and I have to speak my truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, of course. It's important.
Yeah. So Vanessa and I talk about this. This is dinner table conversation for us often, because we just chase this thing around and around and around. And the piece that I always come up against is in most every concept or answer to that question, or in every philosophy that I find or read about, there seems to be some level of progression, that we're going somewhere, right? So whether it's, our souls come here and manifest to learn the lessons of Earth in order to do something, right? Mm-hmm. To like progress into some other level. And so I'm curious if that is something that you see, that there are levels to this game, and if there are, who made them up? Like where does it, you know what I mean? Like what are we doing here? Yeah.
Well, like I said, there's kind of, if you want to take it in a 3-level process, there's people that identify as the body. They identify with material things. There's the next level that identifies as the soul, as if I'm going to be reincarnated as a soul. And I evolve with how good I do in this life. And then I can evolve more. I've grown, I've learned. And then there's the 3rd level, which is the I am, that recognizes the backing of all energy, that is the only thing that's created all of it. And so I don't believe there's any good or bad, or, you evolve or you don't evolve. You're already all that. It's just the experience. And so that's why expanding consciousness is the key to all of it, because as you expand consciousness is the extent to which you'll experience more and more of your divine power. The more you pretend like you are the effect of life or the victim of anything, not less powerful than money or less powerful than anything, you will experience yourself being disempowered. It's this beautiful, amazing, perfect mathematical equation of the universe. And so, no, I don't believe that we're here like, we just simply create heaven or hell, and there's only right now. The heaven and hell's now. Immortality's now. Eternity's now. It's all now. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing. There's just the experience and what we create right now.
That is the most articulate phrasing of my thoughts about this that I've ever heard, even in my own mind. So that's perfect, because that is ultimately what I feel like. I'm like, man, I don't know. I just think it's all up here, and that all of these constructs that we have around it being good or bad, or this is better than that, or all of that just seems so kind of basic and man-made. Yeah. And what you just described just really sounds true to me.
That's so cool. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I have to go one final place because
I love this conversation. And I don't get asked this very often on podcast, so I love it, because I'm like, why don't people talk more about this? Like, who cares about the rest of it?
Exactly. I know that's where I always get to. I'm like, all right, let's get to the good stuff. Yeah. What are your thoughts on aliens?
Quite frankly, I don't think about it that much. I mean, obviously there's going to be life. I mean, how could there not be life everywhere? I mean, it would seem like ridiculous to think there isn't aliens.
Right.
And there must be, because the light just totally like blew out right next to us. That's hilarious. Did you hear that?
Too close to the truth.
Actually.
Yeah, no, we heard it.
I mean, I kid you not, the light bulb just burst. So,
Cue the aliens.
I'm gonna answer that right. No, just kidding. So this is my feeling on it. Okay, so when I began to have major awakening, you could say deities came, or different energies, or whatever it is. And I had to really sit with myself and think, if there's oneness, why is there experience like there's another person, or there's another deity, or there's another universe, or there's an alien, or whatever it is?
Mm.
And I think, again, we just have to recognize that it's all us, in these different forms. And whether it be a different person or an alien, I don't see it any different. So it doesn't really matter to me, quite frankly. I just know that of course, there's life in different dimensions. Of course, there's different life on different planets. I mean, how could there not be? So I don't think it's any weird thing. I think it's more like, how can you not think that life goes on? How can you not think we're immortal? It's like, it just seems like such common sense that it's the same conversation about aliens. Of course, there's going to be aliens.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because it's like us here in 3D, we want to find proof, right? We're like, where's the alien? We need to see the body. We need to see the spaceship. But I always just think about like the interdimensionality of it all. And it's like, I mean, who knows which layer they're in? Like, it may just not be the way we think of it.
Well, yeah, I remember when I went to Bali, and in Bali, they give offerings, of course, as you guys probably know, in the Hindu religion, the Balinese Hindu religion in particular, and they have temples that they put these kind of offerings up high, and then they have ones that are kind of medium, and they have offerings that they put down on the ground. And I remember I was alone in Bali for some time, and I began to talk with the locals more and more, and I'd ask them about the offerings and their, religion and philosophy and all that stuff. And one day, one of the gentlemen said, "We're not really supposed to say this to the visitors, the travelers, but we believe that there's these small entities, these little things that come across at night. And that's why there's different levels of life spiritually. There's a human race, there's a deities, and there's like these lower beings." And I thought, well, that's interesting. And whether that's true or not, I do not know. But do I think that there's all possible ways of people being on this planet beyond being in bodies? Absolutely. I mean,
Absolutely.
like who are we to say that you can just, like the ether makes up 99% of space of each cell. You know what I mean? Like we're a little tiny fraction here. You know what I mean? Like who knows what's really possible?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I have loved this conversation. It just hit on all the points like I knew it would. And I just adore everything that you're up to and just your energy in general. So thank you so much for blessing us with this conversation. I know that our listeners could use it right now. We all could use these kinds of talks, this kind of energy. And so share with folks where they can find more about you, more about all the good work that you're doing.
I love it. Thank you. I truly believe that the truth sets us free. It releases us from our suffering, and it allows us to claim our birthright of prosperity, vitality, and love. And yes, I'm actually live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. across all social platforms as Dr. Erin, DRERIN.TV. And I'm also on Roku, Apple TV, Twitch, Twitter, all of it, you name it. And we also have free community. We have some of the ambassadors that I train give support calls, also doing transformational work as well. I have a free community in SOULCIETÉ called Inner Circle. So again, if you find me on social media, you'll find all the different links and all that kind of stuff. So you can go to soulciety.com, which is ends in an E, or drerin.tv, and you'll find all of it.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dr. Erin. We appreciate you. You're beautiful.
Thanks, you guys.
This is awesome.
Keep up the divine work. Amazing. I just love to see a beautiful couple that is totally in alignment with, truth and bringing it to the world. And so thank you for everything that you guys are doing.
Thanks
Thank
so much.
you. That is fully received.
That's a wrap. I hope you guys like that podcast.
We certainly loved it. Adam's laughing because I'm picking bugs out of his beard. For those of you who've not seen his latest look on Instagram, he's in full beard man over here.
Yeah. And there's, it's springtime in Northern California. There's a lot of bugs out and about, and apparently there's some stuck in my beard.
So anyhow, we hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast, we are into our 200, what is this, 203. We are jamming right into the 200s in these episodes, and we would really appreciate your support. So if you have been listening to the podcast, if you're enjoying the podcast, we just ask that you subscribe, you share any episodes that are meaningful to you and that help you in your journey in this life, and leave us a 5-star review. We are almost to 100. We're so close. I think we have like 97 now.
That's pretty close.
That's so close. So you could be the one. And if you leave us a podcast review and you send us a snapshot of it via email to info@bethewellness.com, you can just take a quick screen grab, send it over. We will send you a free gift card into either our our handstand challenge, our pull-up challenge, or our bodyweight badass challenge. So you'll get some free coaching and we get an awesome podcast review. So thanks again for your support. We appreciate you guys out there who have already done that, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.